Jesus freak here. Now, I've just been thinking. Now, naturally, things tend to organize themselves in a sort of a hierarchical pyramid. And the church is really no different. In the days of Acts 4:32, the Christian community basically practiced radical egalitarianism, sort of a proto-communism. But things evolved. By the time Paul was writing to Timothy and Titus, there become a sort of an organization. You had churches that were governed by a leader at the top, a supervisor or episkopos, a bishop, and he had people serving underneath him, diakonos, deacons. And this is when you start to have, for the sake of order, the deacons were still allowed to be both men and women. But the supervisory role, the pastor or bishop, became restricted to men. This is because the radical egalitarianism had just gotten out of control. So there was a need for order. And so order was established. After that, though, originally these various bishops were on equal footing. But, they'd organized such that you had bishops over a certain group of churches rather than just one church. Bishops over districts, bishops over regions. And still, even at this point, the bishops at the top level were still pretty much equal, or they saw themselves as equals, until one of them got a little too big for his britches. He decided that since he could trace his authority back directly to Peter, and since he believed that being the successor to Peter, he held the keys to the church, that he should have authority over the other bishops. And ever since then, there's been a bit of a war between the various Orthodox churches that considered their various leaders to be equals, and Church of Rome thought leader was above all the others. Now, as I understand, and some people might disagree with me, that the biblical model is basically a two-branch government. You have a board of elders, and then you have the deacons, bishop, and then, regional bishops, ups and, going upward. And so you basically got a hybrid Presbyterian / Episcopal structure. And growing up, that's always how I understood things worked in the church, because that's how it worked in the church I went to. Except, of course, we were too small to have any deacons. Now, some churches, your Presbyterian churches have just elders. Your Episcopal churches, including the United Methodist Church, which is an Episcopal lowercase e church, and was called until about the early 30s the Methodist Episcopal Church. And some other Methodist denominations are also Episcopal. They have just the bishop structure, mostly, and Presbyterians just elder structure. Some churches have one or the other, some have both, some have neither, like congregational churches. My understanding, based on scripture, supports the concept of having both. I guess you could say that an elder board is basically a legislature / judiciary. And your pastors are the executives. Just to try to come up with an analogy that, say, an American would probably understand. But a pastor is a guide or a leader, not a king or an emperor. And this is what I think the hierarchy of the Church of Rome fails to understand, and has always failed to understand. But I think the Church of Rome has generally understood itself as being an organization supposed to, in their mind, have both spiritual and political power over the entire earth, centralized in the Pope, or more properly, the Bishop of Rome. It's all the Pope is. It's all he should be seen as. I mean, honestly, calling him the Pope falls afoul of the calling people father thing that Jesus said, oh, obviously, you gotta, you you can't say, oh, I can't call you father, even though you're my dad. But the Pope, it's about you're not supposed to call people father on account of them having preeminence on account of being part of the religious hierarchy. And obviously, with the etymology of the word Pope, the word Pope really shouldn't be used. Just call him the Bishop of Rome. That's what he is. is Bishop of Rome for the Church of Rome. And of course, I don't recognize the Church of Rome and their authority at all, because they have no authority. Because I believe they're a counterfeit church. I've said it before. The true church is the body of spirit-filled believers who worship God in spirit and truth. And my intention is just to make sure that we are what we're supposed to be. Simple, really. Jesus freak out.